से मैंने 5-7 मिनट का टाइम लिया, सर को पता था इसलिए सर ने थोड़ा टाइम आगे भी करा।
नहीं, ठीक है। We have 20 participants so far, no?
Usually it goes and it went up highest till 300 something at one point of time in one meeting.
Okay.
That was ventilation, I think, says pneumonia, something like that.
Yeah, I know.
Breastfeeding, कितने लोग. People are joining? Yeah.
Yeah, people are joining. It's now 28 maybe.
So yeah, that is why it's good to wait. Bhavna has joined?
No, I'm not seeing her. Call her.
I called her up and she was. तो फिर तो वैसे वेट करेंगे.
So this is the first time we are doing a panel discussion online, sir. Usually we do lectures, and I hope it goes seamlessly. We don't have glitches, technical glitches.
There should not be any. Yeah, because now technology has, really advanced.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening, Bhavna.
Bhavna
Welcome,
is joined.
Bhavna. Welcome. We're waiting for you,
There you
Bhavna.
go.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the late.
Some camera issues she's having, but otherwise. Another 1 minute and Anup, then we can start. Another 1
Yes,
minute.
sir. We'll just wait for 1 more minute, maybe.
1707. Vivek?
Yes, sir.
1707.
Vivek
Huh?
is ready. Vivek, your video is working?
Yeah, it's
Can't see
working.
you. Yeah, it's working. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, sir, we can start. Otherwise, we'll delay the program. So we have around 42 odd participants. I think many will join.
Okay. 707.
Is
Yeah.
it okay, sir? Yeah. So a hearty good evening to all of you, and welcome to this meeting of Delhi NNF. Delhi NNF conducts an online monthly meeting every month, and it is really an honor this time. First of all, because of the topic. The topic itself is something which is very close to the heart of all the neonatologists who truly practice neonatology. It's about breast milk. It's about a kind of nectar which help us to make babies survive. So even though technology may advance and there could be changes, but something which will always keep feeding babies is breast milk. And secondly, it's because of the August gathering which we are having today. Some of the doyens of neonatology, some of the people who has mentored us, I can see them on the screen. Dr. Dadish, Dr. Sandhya, Dr. Ruchinandavati, and many of the mentors. It's really heartening to see some of the great neonatologists and people who have shown us the way how to proceed in this particular field. So it's really a great honor. And to start the meeting proceedings, first of all, I would like to invite our President, Dr. Surendra Singh Bist, to kindly speak a few words.
Thank you, Anup, for the. And I'm still, because of emotions coming for other reasons as well. But I'm really thankful and grateful to the galaxy of doyens who have agreed and consented to guide us. Uh, Dr. Sandhya Khadse madam, who and Dr. Ruchi Nanavati madam from Mumbai, who have pioneered, and along with Dr. Armida Fernandez, the our beacon of light in NNF, who was the president when Dr. Dadich was the secretary in 2002, 3, and I said 3, 4
Three,
or
four, three,
3,
four.
4. And this is the time something happened, novel happened, and milk revolution, you can say, happened for NICUs. So that kind of milk revolution started from Mumbai, and it was always my dream to have Madam and Sir to have a big panel of on breast milk and breast feeding being there. And supposedly the day has come when we are having such a panel. Because of travel reasons, we could not have a physical one, but certainly this virtual meeting of NNF for Delhi, which is the Association of Neonatologists, have always been seen, though it's of practice time 7 to 8, but still a lot of interested members always join, and they get benefited from it. And today I really ask all of you to please listen to them very, very carefully. And following that, there is a very important case discussion on CME, where we have guests from AIMS and Bangalore who are moderating a session in that spirit also. Thank you, Anup, and thank you, Dr. Sandhya, ma'am, Dr. Ruchi, and Dr. Dadish, and Bhavna Verma, who has pitched in today morning because of jubilance, sudden ill health. Delhi is actually reeling under a lot of not epidemic, but an outbreak of H1N1. So I think sudden thing happens. And Bhavna, thank you for pitching in at the last moment.
Yeah, thank you, Bis sir. So, as per the format today, we are going to have at first the panel discussion, followed by an interesting case presentation. So, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Vivek Chaudhary. Vivek Chaudhary is my dear friend and colleague, and currently is the treasurer of NNF Delhi. So, he is the meeting coordinator today. So, Vivek, can you kindly introduce the moderator and the panelist? And I will request Dr. Dadeep sir to, in the meanwhile, share his slides, please. Vivek, over to you.
A very warm good evening to all of you. So we can consider this as a monsoon session of our AON Delhi meet. The Indian Parliament didn't function well in the monsoon session, but we wish to get gain wisdom on today's topic. So for this today's panel discussion on a very important topic, small babies, big potential, fueling low birth weight infants with every drop of breast milk. And we have, as Dr. Best, our president, has already introduced the esteemed panelist and the moderator. Dr. JP Dadich remains the moderator. He is a senior consultant pediatrician at Vatsalya Child Care Clinic, Gurgaon, and he is also the chair for NNF breastfeeding community and also for the young infant feeding chapter. We have an extremely knowledgeable panelist, Professor Ruchi Nanavati, who is the head of the department at GS Medical College and KM Hospital, Mumbai. Professor Sandhya Khatse, Dean MGM Medical College, Nerul, Navi, Mumbai. And our very own Bhavna Barna, who is also the executive board member from the nursing group and also the nursing coordinator at Vardhaman Mahavir Medical College. So I welcome moderator Dr. Dhadich and to take over from here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vivek. And I'm really thankful to Association of Neonatologists, the Delhi NNF, for two reasons, basically. Number one, for inviting me for this important meeting. And secondly, for choosing this very innovative kind of topic for today's discussion, that is small babies, big potential, fueling a low birth weight infants with every drop of breast milk. And as rightly said that there were a lot more participation when there was a meeting on ventilation. So I would say that today's topic may not be so much glamorous, in inverted commas, glamorous, but it is very, very important if we are interested in intact survival of our neonates. So let us start the discussion. And before that, let me again introduce my panel experts. We have a very experienced panel today. Dr. Ruchi, Professor Ruchi Nanavati, she is the former HOD of Department of Neonatology at GS Medical College and KM Hospital, Mumbai. She has done a tremendous work in the field of neonatology and in the field of breastfeeding. And I will show you her detailed CV in the next slide. We have Professor Sandhya Khadse, Dean, MGM Medical College, Nerul, Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra. Again, Madam has a lot of experience in newborn care, child care, and breastfeeding. And we have Miss Bhavna Verma, and I'm really thankful to her. She was called in very last moment because the person, Miss Jubilant, got sick, as Dr. Surinder was informing us, and she accepted, and she is working with Vardhman Mahavir Medical College at Safdarjung Hospital in Delhi. She is in charge of LMU. As I told you, Professor Sandhya Satish said it's a long CV, so a number of awards and recognition, a number of affiliations, attachment, publications, presentations. Madam has done wonderful work, especially in the human milk banks. So welcome, Madam.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have Dr. Ruchi Nanavati again. Presently, she is a trustee of SNEHA, that is Society for Nutrition, Education and Health Action. A very checkered academic career. She has been on many committees of Government of India, the government organizations for developing guidelines at national level, at state level, and she has been a recipient of many awards. She's a fellowship award of she has received a fellowship award of National Neonatology Forum and many other awards. So welcome, madam. We have Bhavna. She is a PhD nursing scholar, and she is in charge of lactation management unit LMU at Safdarjung Hospital. She's also a trainer of IKMC and many academic achievements and publications Bhavna is having. So this is the introduction of panel. Let us start the actual discussion now. So when we talk about breastfeeding or breast milk feeding, we all know that there are many benefits, in general benefits for all newborns, not only for newborns, benefits for mother, benefits for society, benefits for environment, economy. But especially when we talk about low birth weight feeding, there are some special beneficial benefits for low birth weight infants. So my question is to Dr. Ruchi Nanavati. Madam, why is breast milk feeding especially beneficial for low birth weight infants uh, in the scenario of all the plethora of all other benefits of breastfeeding?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dadich. As all of us know that, the breast milk is described as an amrut for the newborn babies. And it holds true even for the low birth weight babies. And if I have to answer in one simple sentence, it is species specific. In the nature, we see that the cow's milk is for cows, and the dog's milk is for puppies. By the same natural phenomenon, what we see in nature, the mother's milk is for her babies, and the preterm milk, which is but when the mother delivers a preterm child, the milk is known as a preterm milk, and the preterm milk is the best milk for her baby, and it is called as mother's own milk, and it's specially for her own baby. The next slide. Now, normally, what do we experience is that when the small baby is born, the clinicians are actually involved in, the issues threatening to the survival, ventilation, and so many other things. And still, there are units where there is lack of family-centered care. I'm not reading out all, but this is all is the truth. And as a result of this, there is, the mother's own milk the babies may not get, and there is may not be, the oromotor stimulation, so many other things, and even KMC. The babies may not receive immediately KMC in many of the units still today in India. And as a result of this, the next slide, which we know that the babies who are discharged from NICU, the next slide, actually experience the extrauterine growth restriction. And that's why when we are talking about breast milk, we have to keep in mind that the birth of a preterm baby should be considered as a nutritional emergency. And with this, we have to give a very special dedication and interest for feeding this low birth weight babies and the preterm babies. And this study by Erin Kranz, which is almost about 20 years back, has shown that in hospital growth velocity and neurodevelopmental outcomes, which was studied at almost at about 1.5 years of age in 500 infants between 500 to 1000 grams, and it has shown that as the rate of growth velocity and weight gain increases, the incidence of neurodevelopmental impairment decreases significantly. So that is up to us that we provide, all the opportunities so that the babies are able to get the mother's own milk. The next slide. And these are, I'm not going into the details. This slide shows you the nutritional requirement of a low birth weight baby. So you can look at the energy requirement, protein requirement, and other requirements. The next slide. And when we look at this, what I would like you to note that the preterm milk, actually the nature has given more proteins in the preterm milk, comparatively more sodium chloride as compared to the term milk. But in spite of this, as our research and everything goes as we say it today, that the you can see that still there is deficiency of the calcium, phosphorus, sodium, zinc, iron, and certain vitamins. And that is, and you the last column will actually show you that how much is the deficit in all this, the minerals and certain vitamins. And that's why, when we are talking about the feeding this milk to the babies, the concept of fortification comes into action. The next slide. And with this, as per the WHO, which was described way back, the optimal feeding in low birth weight infants in 2006, there is a strong evidence that feeding a preterm milk with mother's own milk way back almost about 20 years, it is shown to be associated with lower incidence of infection, necrotizing enterocolitis, which we are worried about in these small babies, and improved neurodevelopmental outcome as compared to the formula feeding, which is an easier option, which is practiced in certain units. But at the same time, this unsupplemented human milk has been associated with slower growth patterns. We actually, implication why the nature of this thing, we actually do not know, but we are, using fortification, this thing. And what I would like to say that, the ideal, this milk is ideal for the low birth weight babies because it gives the anti-infectious factors like AGA, probiotics, essential nutrients that provide helpful intestinal health. The mother's own milk gives protections against necrotizing enterocolitis through its bactericidal, immunological, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory properties. It contains, certain commensal bacteria that reduces the risk of NEC by promoting, a less pathogenic intestinal microorganisms. And because of all this, the babies are benefited. So there are nutritional benefits, there are immunological benefits, there are benefits against infection, and most important again is neurodevelopmental outcome. And that's why I feel that there are no two doubts that we require to give the babies, low birth weight babies, put in all the effort so that the babies get mother's own milk. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Nanavati. I mean, in very short time period, you explained how breast milk is important for the growth of the low birth weight babies. It provides important nutrients. Its composition is like this, that it is suited for the preterm babies, and also it helps in preventing very serious neonatal morbidities like infections and NEC, and with an improved neurodevelopmental outcome. So we come to continuing our discussion. We have heard about the benefits of breastfeeding, but when we look into low birth weight feeding guidelines or recommendations, generally what we find is there is a list given there that according to it's according to the priority, the availability, and possibility of which feeding method is possible in a certain circumstances. Um, there are number one is of course mother's own milk, then the donor human milk, and then the third comes is formula, infant formula. But when we look into such kind of listing, usually it doesn't come to our mind that uh, we think that all these three are on equal footing actually, but they are not actually. There are certain risks involved with the formula feeding, and particularly for the low birth weight babies, those who are sick, admitted in NICUs and SNCUs. So my question is to Dr. Sandhya Khatse, madam. Madam, what are the key short-term health risks of formula feeding in low birth weight infants, especially in NICU and SNCU settings? And is powdered infant formula contamination is especially concerning for the low birth weight babies, madam?
Thank you very much, Dr. Datich and the team, for giving me this particular opportunity to address you all in this August audience. My answer to my questions, most of the things are answered already by Dr. Ruchi Madam about short-term concern with formula feed is necrotizing enterocolitis, which can be very well prevented. And when mothers own milk is unavailable. Now, I'm not very comfortable with this word unavailable, because first it has to be ascertained. Many of the times it just happens that mother is there in the OT or labor room or somewhere, and then immediately when the baby is shifted to the hospital, the first concern is immediately to give the formula feed, which never ever should be encouraged. It's not that mother is not unavailable or something. We have to make all efforts to provide the mother's own milk to the baby whenever and wherever it is possible. Second option is, if safe milk banking facility is available in the same hospital, then donor human milk. That is the second best option. Mom is always the best and the first. The second option is the donor human milk, which can be provided. The most practical concern with these formula feeds is, one is about the feeding tolerance, resulting into delayed achievement of full enteral feeds, etc. Most important, particularly in our setup. Nowadays, I don't use the word resource constrained. It is resource starved settings, ideally, because we have an acute crunch of staff, we have acute crunch of resident doctors, so many things are there in the hospital. And so in a resource starved constraint, if you are going to stick up to the formula feed, lot of time is wasted in preparation and sterilization and all those things of the formula feeds. The nurses can give much more time if mom or donor human milk, etc., is provided to the baby rather than making the formula. We did a study in BJ Medical College where we counted the time taken for preparation of the formula feeds and preparation for giving mom. And then there was a drastic difference. And once we started the milk bank at BJ Medical College, The sisters were all very happy because they could concentrate more on the newborn care, which is actually their main duty, rather than preparing all these feeds. Now, going back to organisms, contamination always occurs. Salmonella, Chronobacter infections, outbreaks are associated with powdered formula.
Oh, sorry. You want to take time?
WHO reported multinational infant formula food safety involving the cellulite toxin. That illustrating that it is very current event and that contamination has occurred. And for a tiny preterm infant, a very small microbiological risk can translate into a disproportionately large clinical risk because of immature immunity, gut barrier function, and the severity of illness. And so the key message is when human milk is available, particularly mother's own milk, why expose a vulnerable baby to an avoidable additional risk? It's always better to make sure and make it possible to make the mother's own milk available to the baby. That is something which is very important and it is doable. It is not that difficult and it is not very always unavailable word as such. I don't agree at all with that because if the same hospital, if the mother is there, we are not initiating the breastfeeding in our labor room. We are not initiating the breastfeeding in the OT. Our hospitals are not made the baby friendly, breastfeeding friendly hospitals as such. Most of our labor rooms, there is such a chaotic atmosphere there. It is not baby friendly or child friendly labor rooms. If we come to this particular end of providing this facility in the hospital, there will not be a problem for mom at all. Mother's own milk will be always available if we can provide a proper environment, awareness, sensitization, and training programs to all the staff, OBGY as well as pediatrics, so that breastfeeding is initiated and mom is the best.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you for highlighting that when we use infant formula in our neonatal units, we should know that it's not a benign choice. There are risks attached to this particular type of feeding. So much so that, and I recall that very recently in USA, the court took cognizance of one complaint in which that was a class suit basically, in which a neonate died after receiving infant formula due to NEC, and there was a litigation against the formula company, that the formula company did not mention that their product is not sterile. There may be inherent contamination because of the process of manufacturing of these products. The temperature doesn't go very high, and spores of bacteria like Chronobacter and Salmonella, they survive at that particular temperature. And it was a multi-million dollar fine imposed on a particular company. So, I mean, these things are basically when we use in our neonatal units, we should be uh, telling the parents also the risk involved with the using the infant formula in any case, if it is required in our neonatal units, then I would say that it will be always safe to have a written consent from the parents before using these products. So now, after this, now we come to, we have heard about benefits of breastfeeding. We have heard about the risks of formula feeding. And these three important methods of feeding a low birth weight baby, that is mother's own milk, the pasteurized donor human milk, and commercial infant formula. So I would like to ask Bhavna to, if we compare these three modes of infant feeding and the low birth weight babies feeding, so how they compare in terms of immunological composition and nutrient bioavailability? Bhavna.
Thank you, sir, for this question. Can I have the next slide, sir? Thank you, sir. So, if we compare the mother's own milk with the pasteurized donor human milk in terms of immunological composition, we all know that the mother's own milk, that is breast milk, which is rich in immunoglobulin A, lactoferrin, isosomes, and other growth factors also. Whereas in PDHM, because of the pasteurization, it retains many soluble immune factors, but such as human milk oligosaccharides. But because of the pasteurization, it reduces immunoglobulins and other some anti-inflammatory activities also. And when we talk about protein, because of the particularly it matches with the infant, that is newborn, the preterm mom has relatively high protein early in lactation, whereas in pasteurized Roman human milk, which is lower in protein than preterm mom, because we know that the donor human milk, which is usually it is considered like often it is produced after when there is a mature milk or a term milk. Now, coming to the fat and energy, we know that it provides the mom provides 60 to 70 kilocalories per 100 ml, and it is an excellent bioavailability because of the active lipase and other bile salt stimulating lipase. Whereas in PDHM, pasteurization reduces the lipase activity and may reduce the fat availability. So, fat and energy is variable. Now coming to the carbohydrates, mainly lactose, which is highly bioavailable and relatively stable, so which is rich in human milk oligosaccharides. It supports gut microbiota, and obviously it enhances immunity also because of this. Whereas in PDHM, lactose is largely preserved after pasteurization, so it is relative because these human milk or oligosaccharides, they are relatively heat stable. And lastly, when we talk about for fortification and minerals, excellent bioavailability is there for mother's own milk. And whereas when we talk about PDHM, generally it improved after there is an improved bioavailability, but protein and other nutrient levels may be lower and variable. And bioactive proteins are also usually lost because of the pasteurization. But the fortification need is required in both, like in mother's own milk as well as in pasteurized donor human milk, because of the an increase in requirement of protein, calcium, and phosphorus and other micronutrient requirements. Next slide, sir. So I would like to give one example from the clinical scenario. Like for example, if there is a mother which is who is expressing milk, and the baby is clinical stable, so mother's own milk is preferred. And for example, if there is extremely preterm or low birth weight baby, then and in that case, if mother's milk volume is temporarily insufficient, then pasteurized Roman human milk is better. And especially when the baby is on CPAP in NICU, but enteral feeds are required, so mom can be provided through orogastric tube. And another example is like when mother is separated from the baby soon after the birth, so we can uh, counsel the mother for early expression, and mom can be provided through tube feeding or cup feeding. And especially in cases of very low birth weight baby, those who are getting mom and PDHM, we know that appropriate fortifiers are also used, and human milk is the best milk. So
Yeah.
all over we can say that the first best milk is mother's own milk, and then the pasteurized donor human milk, and then the preterm formula when necessary, whenever it is advised. But importantly, pasteurized human milk is not it is a replacement for establishing the mother's milk supply. And we can say that the NICU should be provided with a continuous early lactation support, early expression of milk, as well as kangaroo mother care and maternal presence. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavna. So we can safely say that the gold standard of low birth feeding is always the mother's own milk. And if it is not available due to any reason, or it's not sufficient, then we should go for the pasteurized donor human milk. And if we put a third column here, fourth column, fifth column here for the infant formula, then we can safely say that the first row, basically, the formula here, it will be written nil actually. So this is the real difference between the breast milk, the MOM, PDHM, and formula. And this difference basically um, actually impact the overall neonatal outcome, the intact survival, the decrease in morbidity. All these things, they basically come here actually. And the formula may be sufficient in the macro and micronutrients, but the basic deficit falls here. And we are interested in the immunological components of breast milk. There may be some decrease in the PDHM in comparison to MOM, but still there is adequate immunological protection which is available in the PDHM. So we go to again. I would like to come to you, Dr. Nanavati. In spite of having all the benefits of breast milk, there are many low birth weight babies. They do not get neither the mother's own milk, neither the PDHM. So, which low birth weight babies they miss out on their the MOM in Indian neonatal units, and why it happens?
Yeah. As all of us know, the next slide, that the babies who are born too soon or the babies who are born too early are at a risk of missing on their mother's own milk, or the growth restricted infants. And WHO in 2023 has described all these babies too small, born too soon or born too small under one terminology, that is small vulnerable newborns. And one child, every four child born in the world is a small vulnerable newborn. So the it's significantly more number of babies who are actually, we are worried about them when we are talking about mother's own milk. In addition, outborn babies, when the mothers are in the referring hospital, prolonged NICU stay, if there is mother baby separation, that is most important. And low birth weight babies with certain congenital anomalies, these are the babies who are actually at risk of not getting mother's own milk. The next slide. And when we are treating these babies, we have to keep in mind that the goal for nourishment of these babies is to duplicate the growth rate and body composition of a healthy fetus of the same gestational age without inducing any nutritional deficiencies or toxicities. And as I show you, almost about so many years back in 1948, it is shown that the chief variable in determining the weight curve of a premature infant is feeding policy. And it is in our hand. And we have to actually see what are we doing. The next slide. And we are worried about these small babies because they are weak. They have lack of sucking, swallowing, breathing coordination. They have a hypotonia. And you can read here that hypotonia is a significant factor affecting these low birth weight babies. And because of all this, that decrease endurance, decrease intraoral negative suction, there is inability to achieve the effective latching and maintain that latching during sucking pause. And that's why these babies are not able to suck very vigorously continuously, and it may be interpreted by the family members that the baby is not able to take, and the healthcare workers, depending on what is the facilities available in your unit, these babies might be given a formula milk. The next slide. And as we have already said that mother baby separation is the neuroscience today has shown that when you are separating mother and baby, the baby's life starts with toxic stress. So as soon as the baby enters NICU, it starts with a toxic stress. What we require is MNCU, the mother newborn care unit. There is the delayed or infrequent milk expression. Actually, ideally, the milk expression in the mother should start in first 6 hours, and it should be minimum at least about, ideally is 10 to 12 times a day, but it should not be less than 8 times a day. In addition, as Dr. Sandhya has already described, that there are system barriers. We have limited nursing staff, inadequate privacy, insufficient lactation counseling, lack of equipment, lack of support. And because of all this, these babies actually miss out. And we need to strengthen, as per this time's World Breastfeeding Week thing, we require to strengthen our the units and our policies to help these babies. Thank you.
Yeah. So when we say missing out on breast milk, when we talk about low birth weight babies, you rightly said that there are physiological vulnerabilities in these babies. We should keep these things in our mind. And also there are many preventable things which we can implement in our neonatal units, so that all babies they can get their mother's own milk. Now, uh, after all this discussion, um, Dr. Khadse, we have a plethora of evidence in favor of giving breast milk to our low birth weight babies, preterm tiny sick babies. But when we look into the practices in our neonatal units, we find that there is a gap which exists between what we know from research and what happens in routine clinical practice. So why this gap is there, and what can be done to address the situation?
Yeah, I think the gap is less about lack of evidence, but it is more about lack of systems that translate evidence into a routine behavior. We definitely have no system in place as such to promote or encourage the breastfeeding aspects in many of the setup. First of all, the OBGY department, the pediatric department, the community medicine department, all together, we should come in the same platform and speak one language in the hospital so that this gap is reduced. But what happens many of the times, delivery occurs somewhere, the baby is there in the NICU somewhere, and somebody tells them about different aspects of feeding. And with so much of stress about sensitizing, spreading awareness, we are not in a position to create that confidence in the mother to breastfeed. Very important is to make herself totally competent and create a confidence in her that she has enough of milk and she will breastfeed her baby. If the mother determines this and she is confident, nothing should come in between the breastfeeding and the baby. But what happens most of the time is the women, they do not know many things. The staff sisters, they are not having lactation management skills. Already Ruchi madam has told that enough of staff crunch, and so we do not have lactation counselors. We are not in a position to give a dedicated staff in the labor room to initiate the breastfeeding. The first thing which I did in my medical college was to specifically devote a staff so that she will be handling only breastfeeding and the baby in the labor room, nothing with the OBGY part. Now, once you give that sort of a system, then early initiation is possible in the labor room. We can do it. There should not be any problem. And similarly, antenatal counseling, feeding clinics, which has to be there, and a detailed explanation about the advantages of the breastfeeding, the various options. If everything is explained to the mother, and she should be mentally prepared. Here, what happens after the traumatic labor pain and everything, after all those things, when we are asking her to feed the baby on the breast, that also time lag is there. And after that, mother becomes tired, baby sleepy, not sucking on the breast. Immediately, the moment the baby is not sucking or baby is not having enough of milk or the baby is starting crying, moment the conclusion is that the milk is not there or enough milk is not there, something has to be given to the baby. So why not the formula feed? So like that, the system is not in a place, and that there are various barriers for all this, because of which definitely we have a very dramatic result now with the NFHS data showing the decline in the breastfeeding rates. Even in Maharashtra, the breastfeeding rates has declined, which is really very shocking. And this is because storage, collection, transportation of the express breast milk, most of the people, they do not know about it, and they are not at all well versed with what can be done. And in spite of knowing that mom is the best, or next option is donor human milk, still the third option is always preferred, and babies are immediately given all these formulas. There are a lot of promotions, there are a lot of default by avoiding the IMS Act, by surpassing the IMS Act. Many of the people are practicing so many things. And the mushrooming companies, which are coming out with so much of advertisement for other feeds. So all these as such are the main reason to create this particular gap about the virtues of the breast milk. And if we follow a very standard pathway, right from antenatal counseling, early expression, frequent expression, safe collection, storage, mother's own milk as the first choice, donor human milk when needed, and formula only when all these mechanisms fail.
Yeah.
If we have this correct policy, then there will not be any problem and the gap can be reduced to the maximum extent.
Thank you, madam. So we can say that to translate the knowledge into practice, we need to have a very robust system to support
Yes.
the mother in our hospitals, not only in NICUs, it should be in the hospital itself. We cannot implement breastfeeding improvement strategies alone in NICU. It should be in the hospital itself, and the things which we improve in NICU should be part of that, the whole plan of the institute. So thank you, madam. And now Ms. Bhavna. So when we talk about breastfeeding support, protection, promotion and support in our health facilities, we usually hear this, that this cannot be a sole responsibility of a pediatrician or a neonatologist. There should be a collective effort. So what is your idea? I mean, how can obstetrician, nurses, pediatrician, neonatologists, the anesthetist, the support staff, they share responsibility for lactation support to the mother instead of treating it as somebody else's job? Ms. Bhan.
Thank you, sir, for a very interesting question. Sir, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about as a team, like in terms of obstetricians, nurses, and neonatologists, in my opinion, because it is not only the responsibility of a lactation support staff, because it is a shared clinical responsibility with the clear ownership. Means if an obstetrician, like I would like to give one example, if there is a baby admitted of 900 with a 900 grams in after having emergency cesarean section, then if the obstetrician starts antenatal and postnatal immediate counseling and reinforces the importance of mother's milk, and after that the neonatologist explain why small amounts of colostrum is valuable for the baby, and also explain the feeding plans. And then simultaneously, if the nurse starts doing like explaining and demonstrating mother for hand expression, this facilitates colostrum collection and ensures the labeling also, and proper transportation is done by her. So as a NICU team, it provides the complete expression of mother's own milk, especially in this case. And we all are very well aware about this IKMC and MNCU setup, because which is based on completely on a zero separation unit. So even in the team, when we are doing rounds in the as a team, it reviews the milk output, feeding intolerance, KMC, and breastfeeding readiness day by day. So we can say that it is the job responsibility of a whole team, and we can establish goals only after when the team collectively works. So next slide, sir. So when we talk about when we talk about unit-wide based protocol, it means that, like for example, if there is a 20-week baby which is admitted in NICU, and the protocol states that the mother should start hand expression within 1 or 2 hours. So when the milk is properly labeled and it is stored properly, and also the mother is properly counseled, starting with the obstetrician first. So what happens, it eventually increases the mother's output by, because the mother gains confidence, and the mother's own milk is the first choice, which is explained by a neonatologist. So when it becomes the protocol, it becomes the policy of that there is a responsibility of each and every healthcare worker, so that the whole NICU team follows the same pathway. So we can say that there must be especially in breastfeeding hospital initiatives, hospitals, and this we can say that they follows the same pathway. Like, and another example of this is, say, for example, if the baby is born, and firstly the obstetrician informs the mother about the early expression, and soon after the admission of the LBW baby in the NICU, and neonatology explain about the feeding plan, and the when the nursing staff encourages mother to uh, properly expresses the milk, especially and about only this is possible only when the mother is completely guided by the all the health worker that the mother's own milk is precious for this baby, and you need to express even the small amount of colostrum. So with the help of this zero separation concept and proper breastfeeding in IKMC before discharge, it is very it becomes a responsibility of each and every person in the NICU setup, that with each transition phase, everyone works at their own level to establishes the breast milk feeding output, and
Yeah.
eventually it will increase.
Yeah.
And when we talk about mandatory basic lactation competency for all cadres, means if the nurse is caring, for example, for a ventilated newborn baby, and notices that the mother has not expressed the milk for 5 hours, then instead of waiting for the lactation counselor, she needs to counsel the mother immediately and helps with the hand expression, especially during the night shifts, because at that time the mother becomes very helpless. And she must ensure that the milk reaches the NICU very safely by proper storing and labeling. And with this, we can say that daily interdisciplinary discussions, means especially during rounds, because especially during morning meetings, the team discusses what happens with the low birth weight baby, means if there is enough KMC was done, or nutritive sucking establishes or not, or if there is any plan to increase the milk expression, or which is obviously increases by skin to skin contact early. So with this help of discussion, we can gradually adapt the mother's concept, and also mothers becomes the team partner. She's not just a visitor, she becomes a team. She works as a team in gaining this our goal of NICU. And finally, we can say that recognizing the ineffective milk transfers, especially by the lactation nurse, and also soon after the baby is born, if the baby is put on the mother's breast, and everyone in the team, like
Yeah.
there is a, if
Okay.
there is a poor by obstetrician, then this, yes sir,
Yeah.
then she must inform the neonatologist, and also the feeding partners, like feeding
Yeah.
team members, which is obviously can be a nurse or a team, any feeding team may be there. So with this we can we can find out the root cause, like whether the mother is helpless during the night, or whether there is no relatives available, whether she was not able to perform skin to skin contact properly. So, adequate reviewing of and auditing of NICU is very important. For example, we can review the percentages of very low birth weight receiving mom within
I,
24
I
to
think,
48 hours.
Bhavna, I
And we
think
can also,
Bhavna, I think these things will be discussed in the subsequent answer to
yes,
subsequent questions.
yes.
So if you
So
have
that
anything
proper
else,
feedback must be
yeah,
taken.
yeah, about the team
Yes, sir.
which is
Yes, yes.
required,
Whole
yeah,
obstetric and nursing neonatological team should be responsible
yeah,
for the feeding patterns of the
yeah.
on a finding NICU, I think.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
so we can rightly say, recently during the World Breastfeeding Week, there was a breastfeeding alliance was announced by IAP, NNF, FOXY, the Nursing Council, Indian Nursing Council. And in that meeting, my suggestion was that this should percolate to states, districts, and also to the institutions. And in each institution, there should be a breastfeeding committee comprising of pediatrician, the neonatologist, the obstetrician, the anesthetist, the nursing superintendent, the lactation management experts, everyone. And many things can be implemented simply by discussing things. Say, for example, if we want to initiate the breastfeeding immediately after birth in LSCS babies, then the obstetrician and anesthetist and the OT staff should be aware of this, that this is the practice which will be implemented in our operation theater. So these things, with a proper
Right, sir.
discussion every month, there can be a meeting of the committee, and things can be sorted out. So now we have completed 2 rounds, and I would like to ask first Dr. Surinder and Dr. Thakur, can we continue, because I understand that we will
The
need another 10
time.
minutes to
Sir,
complete.
another faster answers will be
Yeah.
certainly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
any questions, if in fact the participants want to ask any questions, and the new questions, if that can be answered, because they have come with a query, they have come with
Yes.
a question in their mind. So if
Yeah.
people have questions, then they can ask, and that is certainly will be done. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, while they are doing so, I'm really thankful, sir, you have said so. I have to attend Government of Delhi's meeting. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it will be now day after tomorrow on MA program and the NFHS thing, which Madam said. We are going to work on something, and this good idea is having a district breastfeeding committee is certainly a very, very good idea. I'm
Yes.
going to pitch in.
Yes. Yeah. So in this round, I will request all the 3 esteemed panelists to be brief. In their answers. So, Dr. Nanavati, when we talk about implementing breastfeeding friendly lactation support in a health facility, particularly in NICUs and SNCUs, right from the delivery to NICU and SNCU admission till discharge, so that preterm low birth weight babies and critically ill newborns, they receive their mother's own milk. So what should be the pathway?
Yeah. What I would like to say that ideal breastfeeding friendly lactation support pathway, what we are talking, is very easy to understand, but
Yes.
at the same time, it is very, very difficult to practice unless everyone involved in the newborn care is committed for breastfeeding. So I'm not reading out everything. As we know that we have to identify high risk mothers, be lactationally alert in a particular case, and help that mother. The first hour after baby's birth is very essential. We should provide skin to skin contact, and in bigger babies, one can actually practice a breast crawl. Mother should express the milk in first 6 hours, within first 6 hours after birth. KMC should be immediate KMC and practice as long as possible. What we require to strengthen this year is establishment of MNCU, because today it is in very less number of units we have mother newborn care unit. Otherwise, there is a separation of mother and baby. So I think that should be our priority. The next slide. In addition, this thing we should make the NICU itself baby friendly so that everyone is talking in the same language. The KMC should not be treated as a separate program. It should be integrated. The lactation is, of course, a part of breastfeeding is a part of KMC, and we have to progress from milk delivery to breastfeeding. So we are helping
Yes.
this baby. We are giving the milk by tube or whatever through bonla, through pallade. But after that, we have to go for breastfeeding. Treat the maternal barriers and have the the mom rescue pathway. Whenever this thing you see that the mother's milk is expressed and that is given to the baby, and finally your aim is breastfeeding. And discharge preparation should be much in advance. You know that this baby will be discharged in so many days, so you support the mother and especially the family members for breastfeeding. And I think in short, this is what we require to do to have this, and this you have to do only 365 days a year,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
more than that. Only
Yeah.
365 days a year you do it, and then that will be a successful breastfeeding friendly
Yeah.
lactation
Yeah.
support pathway. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nanavati. You rightly said that the pathway is very simple, but implementation requires concerted efforts, a good intent, and a structured program. And it has to be done, throughout the year, all 365 days of the year. So now I come to Dr. Sandhya Khatse. While we have a fair understanding of the key components, so this is a kind of we were discussing the breastfeeding and all programmatic issues related with that in an ICU, but this is specifically for human milk banking. And madam, you have a lot of experience in the field of human milk banking. So we know that technical specifications are there for at least for 1 decade now. In 2017, the CLMC guidelines were issued by Minister of Health Family Welfare. And after that, many human milk banks have been established in our country, but still the progress is very slow. We have only 120 human milk banks, a total in both government sector and the private sector in our country. They are increasing, but at very slow pace. So what are the major barriers actually?
Uh, to establish a milk bank, everybody knows it is very simple, guidelines are there in place. But implementation, execution, sustainability, and utilization, these are certain things which is really very problematic. And the though we have got the numbers of human milk bank, with the Human Milk Bank Association recently gave us a figure of almost 135 human milk banks in our country. But out of that, actual operational and functioning milk bank, how much are they and how they are progressing, that is actually not more than 120. So various factors are there, like to have a separate human resource for the human milk bank. Most of the places, it is the donor and the medical college and the NICU who are running the milk bank. Then recurring funding is not there by the donors, because of which implementation and continuing the services of the milk bank, that becomes really very difficult. Very important is that we have got 840 medical colleges all over the country. But out of that, our National Medical Commission has not made the presence of human milk bank as a prerequisite for the postgraduate curriculum in pediatrics in most of the medical colleges. If that one rule comes, we will have 100% 840 milk banks will come, because all the requisition for the medical college and for the postgraduate course, it has to be started. And then we will not have this particular problem of using any other feed. We will use either mom or we will use donor human milk. Then next is regarding the teaching of the undergraduate curriculum, like why the strengthening sensitization awareness program. So many graduates are coming out. Why they are not practicing? This is because in the UG curriculum, as a professor and head of the Department of Pediatrics, after working for 37 years, as a dean of a medical college right now, in the curriculum planning, there are 253 competencies for the undergraduate. Out of it, there are only 8 competencies for breastfeeding and 5 for complementary feeding. And these are not under certification. The board of studies sits and they plan the questionnaire for these subjects. And if the person who is not interested or who is not promoting the breastfeeding part, there will not be any question, there will not be any curriculum, and the students are not sensitized at all to learn about lactation. That is something which is really very important, which has to be taught right from the beginning. So that when they go as an intern, when they go as a practitioner, they start spreading this particular thing. This is regarding very important barrier which is there for the starting of the human milk bank, because sensitization of breastfeeding part itself is not there. And awareness and social acceptance, that is also not there most of the time. Like, I had my own staff sister who refused to accept the milk from the human milk bank. She said that no, my daughter will feed either her own milk or something else, but I'm not going to accept milk from the human milk bank. So this acceptance part, which has to come, many communities, many people, and for donor also, regular collection and donation of the milk. That is the problem. most of the time the people don't come forward for donation. You have to be very passionate in counseling, and lot of time you have to spend.
Yeah.
And one more thing is there is no revenue. Biggest problem in starting these milk banks and private medical colleges is we don't have any revenue from the milk bank, and so most of the people do not give us any chance to even approach the donor and start the human milk. I struggled for 3 years in the private medical college where I am a dean, and now on 10th of September I am going to start a human milk bank here
Yeah.
in MGM Medical College, Nehru, the first of its kind in Navi Mumbai. As such, a
Yeah.
milk bank is going to come up. And
Yeah.
so there are various factors which are there. There is weak integration with the neonatal care, monitoring, quality improvement, quality assurance. All those things are not there as far, and we don't have any regulation for the
Yes.
functioning of the milk bank. We are behind that. We want to have some regulatory bodies who can monitor the work and the functioning of all the milk banks, and uniformly they will function with a proper license and everything. If we come across that, then definitely many of the things can be taken care of. And these
Yes.
are all main factors for
Yes.
less mushrooming milk banks.
Yeah. So thank you, madam, and let us hope that the things will improve in future. And this is the in a way last question of today's discussion. So, Ms. Bhavna, you are working with the in MNCU, and you have also a trainer in IKMC. My question to you is, how does kangaroo mother care, and especially the immediate kangaroo mother care, it influence milk production and breastfeeding success in mothers with low birth weight babies?
Thank you, sir. Because we know that skin to skin contact, it eventually increases hormonal like oxytocin reflex, and because of the proper milk injection, milk is produced more and more effective feeding will be there, which is better for the breast milk stimulation. Because early and prolonged skin to skin contact, we know that it enhances oxytocin and prolactin release. So eventually, because of this because of non-nutritive sucking, KMC, if the mother is present in MNCUs, more feeding opportunities are there. Especially, we have done a qualitative study in which the maternal anxiety and confidence level, anxiety eventually decreases and confidence increases soon after when the mother become confident, and mother feels that because of the KMC, it creates a positive feedback cycle, which I have already explained it to you. Like for example, if we have a one baby, today we are having 1.2 kg of weight. If early skin to skin contact increases, then what happens? The mother starts expressing the colostrum, which is very necessary for the baby. So with the help of the implementation of this MNCU, early expression, and even though the baby is on CPAP, the mother expresses milk while the baby is in KMC, and eventually this leads to better, more feeding output, as well as the mother becomes confident, and because of this confidence, she learns positioning, feeding cues, and also breast milk expression. So KMC keeps mother and baby together, creating more opportunities for milk production, and we can say successful breastfeeding can be established. Next slide, sir. So, because so many studies are also done, like in a randomized trial in which 550 LBW mother-infant pairs found that effective breastfeeding was achieved in 92% of the infants receiving community support. And while exclusive breastfeeding was 89% versus 45%. So here we can say that because of the maternal satisfaction with breastfeeding, it is, which is obviously higher in the KMC group. So with this MNCU setups and early immediate KMC, we can achieve these rates also, successful breastfeeding rates, and so many exclusive breastfeeding rates are eventually increased, especially at the time of discharge and at 1 or 3 months of age. So next slide, sir. We finally we can say that this immediate KMC, which is the skin to skin contact within, because of the WHO also stated that all the baby below 2.5 kg of the weight should receive immediate KMC soon after the birth, irrespective of the stabilization, except for those who are like hemodynamically unstable or they are ventilated for any reason. If they must be provided with KMC. The baby should be transported in the KMC, and also we can say that so many processes like tube feeding, cough feeding, breastfeeding, non-nutritive sucking can be given while the baby is in KMC. And so many evidences are also there. One of the study in 2026 in a systemic review and meta-analysis states that 13 studies that 4,162 infants, if they found KMC initiated within the first 24 hours, was associated with a higher likelihood of breastfeeding at discharge compared every newborn, I think, must be prioritized by keeping mothers and LBW together 24/7, and with the establishment of IKMC and MNCUs. This helps in enabling the mother that the mother produces more milk. It supports early initiation of feed as well as in milk expression, and eventually it enhances the maternal confidence and mother newborn bonding. So zero separation should become the norm. I think
Yeah.
it should not be an exception for every LBW eligible baby.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavna. Quickly telling us about the benefits of KMC vis-a-vis breastfeeding, successful breastfeeding. I would say that the AON should have a separate, it requires a separate session. The KMC is a big subject, so they can consider having a special session on KMC and IKMC in their future programs. So here we come to the end, but before we close, I would like to ask to all the panelists, if you had to recommend one change every newborn care unit should make this year to strengthen breast milk feeding for low birth babies, what would it be? So, Dr. Nanavati,
Yeah, I
quickly,
would say
madam.
that, yeah, have establish MNCU, Mother Newborn Care Unit, that is, and practice mom first protocol.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Professor Khadse?
Yeah, I would recommend changing the name of the labor room as Navajat Shishu Agman Kaksh. We have done it actually because that labor means inside the labor room, breastfeeding again laborious, some sort of a
Yes.
misconception.
Yeah,
So Navajat Shishu Agman Kaksh है जहाँ आपके नवजात शिशु का स्वागत होगा माँ के दूध से.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you make that one change in the policy that can definitely help us in initiating the breastfeeding in the labor room properly. So
yeah,
make the labor room baby friendly, child friendly, and
yeah.
rename it as Navjat Shishu Agman Kaksh.
Very innovative. Yeah, and Bhavna?
Sir, from my perspective, same as Ruchi ma'am said, that with the implementation of zero separation concept, MNCU and IKMC, and also nurse-led lactation support units, and also nurse-led support clinics will be there. Like in the nursing curriculum, everyone should be taught, starting from the first year itself, that lactation support must be given to each and every mother, whether the baby is on CPAP or not. We must enhance the inclusion of mother in every care, like family participative care must be enhanced by every nursing staff, and this must become the policy that it is not only the responsibility of a nursing staff, everyone should become a team partner, whether it is whether he or she is a obstetrician or a pediatrician. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So
I
here
just
we
want to
have come to
add
the
just one sentence, if you don't mind, Dr. Dadich,
yes,
that
yes, please,
for
yes,
all of us should practice. Sorry, all of us should practice EBM, that is evidence-based medicine, and with that we
medicine,
will
yes,
give EBM to our low birth weight babies, and that is express breast milk, mother's own milk. So practice
yeah.
EBM
So
and give EBM.
yeah, you have rightly summarized it. I mean, you have made my task very easy. I mean, we have seen that this is doable. I mean, use of breast milk feeding, breastfeeding is doable in our units. There are many advantages. It will improve the outcomes of our newborns, which we are day in day out dealing in our neonatal units, the sick babies, the tiny babies. and it will also improve the relationship between the parents and the treating staff, the neonatologists, the nursing staff, and the support staff. It will create a kind of very healthy, happy environment, because we all know that NICUs are a high stress environment, and this is one thing which actually help in decreasing the stress, not only in the mothers and the family, but also the caregivers. So I would like to thank all three panelists for their excellent deliberation, excellent answers for all the questions. And I'm handing over to Dr. Thakur for further proceedings. Over to you, Dr. Thakur.
Vivek.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dadij, and the esteemed panelists for a wonderful discussion on a very important topic to all the neonatologists. If there are any questions, I'll just check on the chat box. We can take up those questions.
Or people can unmute and ask, because I can see Dr. Medhu, I can see very senior people. And I was so happy, Madam, Dr. Sandhya and Dr. So Daljit Kaur, I saw, she's actually, she was cooking food and she was actually listening to what Dr. Ruchi and Dr. Sandhya and Dr. Bhavna. Thank you, Daljit, because we know this is the time for our house and household chores. And similarly, but we do not want to leave what the doyens are speaking now. Anybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Dadish. Anup?
Yeah, Vivek, so you can call the next case is Manisha
Really
and
grateful to all of you.
fellow, and Dr. Ramesh won't be able to moderate. He has some medical emergency. Dr. Pradeep is here. So, Vivek, you're there?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, kindly introduce the speaker, moderator, and
Yeah.
the
So we
chairperson.
move on to our next part of the today's discussion, which is a case. This case presentation is on silent but significant understanding postnatal CMV. We understand CMV remains a important infection in the NICU, both antenatal and postnatal. For today's case, we have Dr. Subham Bansal.
Uh,
We have Dr.
Thank you,
Subham
sir.
Bansal, who is a
Yes.
neonatologist resident from Cloud9 Hospital. And to moderate the session, we have Dr. Manisha Mehta, who is a senior consultant neonatologist out there. And to chair the session, I would like to request Dr. Pradeep GCM, who is a consultant neonatologist and head Department of Neonatology at Ramaiah Memorial Hospital, Bangalore. So over to you, Dr. Pradeep, for the case.
Yeah. Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Surinder, for inviting me to chair this session. I think we'll listen to the case presentation and get back to you. And after we have listened for the case presentation as such. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Sir, is my screen visible? Yep. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Shubham Bansal, presenting on my presentation on understanding postnatal CMV. First, I will go through the case summaries of the cases which we have encountered recently in our neonatal ICU. Then we will discuss about the postnatal CMV. So case 1, male baby born at 30 plus 2 week of gestation with birth weight of 1 kg via LSES, cried immediately after birth but required CPAP in delivery room with ABGAR of 7 and 9. Was admitted in our ICU and was managed for respiratory distress with CPAP and caffeine. In week 2, the baby developed the late onset neonatal sepsis with shock, which was in the blood culture was suggestive of the Klebsiella species, which was managed by the IV meropenem. And the baby gradually improved and became and shifted on the room air on day of life 12 to 21. But on day of life 22, the baby had frequent desaturation episodes associated with apnea and the bradycardia. On investigation, it was found that the CRP was persistently elevated and there was thrombocytopenia and anemia was present. Although the blood, urine, and the CSF cultures were sterile, however, empirical antibiotics were given Also, we have found that there were neonatal cholestasis and the hepatic
आप वहां
calcifications
पे
were
क्यों बैठे
present.
थे? आपको मेरे पास आना चाहिए था.
Case 2, again male baby
Vivek, can you
born at
Vivek, can
30.
you mute everybody?
वो दिखाओ जो रिपोर्ट्स आए हैं आपको.
Case 2, a male baby present born at 32 plus 6 week of gestation with birth weight of 1.1 kg by LSCS, required CPAP at birth with ABGAR of 8 and 9, was managed conservative for routine.
सॉरी शुभम, मैं तुमको म्यूट कर गया, इसको अनम्यूट कर लो भाई प्लीज.
एक मिनट ना.
I was trying to mute somebody, but Shubham got muted. Shubham, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible?
Hmm.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Please carry on.
Case 2, male baby born at 32 plus 6 week of gestation with birth weight of 1.1 kg by LSCS, cried immediately after birth, required CPAP in delivery room with ABGAR of 8 and 9, was managed for the routine preterm care for the first 3 weeks. But at day 22 of life, the baby had worsening respiratory distress with apnea and tachypnea. Sepsis screen was suggestive of increased CRP levels, and CSF analysis were normal. Blood cultures were sterile, empirical antibiotics were started, and the oxygen was started. On day 25, the baby had increased frequency of the desaturation episodes, with CRP was showing an increasing trend along with the thrombocytopenia, and the blood culture was coming persistently negative. Case 3, male baby born at 30 week of gestation with birth weight of 1.4 kg by LSCS, required CPAP at birth with ABGAR of 7 and 8. This baby was born at outborn facility where the baby was managed for the RDS in the first 3 days, received surfactant, developed pneumothorax, and also due to their unit policy, the urine CVMB PCR was done, which was negative. On day 3, the baby was shifted to our unit and was shifted to high frequency oscillation ventilation and gradually wean off to CPAP and followed by HFNC. But on day 36, the baby had new onset desaturation with increase in the oxygen requirement. Sepsis screen was positive and the culture was suggestive of Klebsiella UTI sepsis, which was managed by IV antibiotics, and the baby was weaned off to room air at day of life 40. Also, baby received leukodepleted PRVC, and antibiotics were stopped after the 10 days of treatment for the UTI. But on day 47, the baby again had increased work of breathing, required HFNC support, and there were persistent elevated CRP levels. Antibiotics were started, and there were persistent radiological lung shadows. The blood cultures were coming negative despite ongoing inflammatory response. Case 4, female baby born at 27 week of gestation with birth weight of 760 gram, born by LSCS, required CPAP at the birth, was managed in the first week for respiratory distress syndrome, received surfactant, CPAP support. On day 3, the baby had HFNC from day of life 9 to day 30, and but become on room air by the day of life 47. On day of 54 of life, the baby had new onset desaturations with increased oxygen requirement, and the CRP levels were elevated. The baby was weaned off to room air by day of life 57, and the blood cultures were sterile. So, what we have seen in all these cases for like that, all the babies are presented like late onset sepsis like illness in the later period of their lives, like apnea, bradycardia, persistent oxygen requirement. In all the babies, the culture were coming sterile and the CRP was elevated or was in increasing trend. So we suspected the postnatal CMV and we sent the urine CMV PCR for all the babies. In the case 1, urine CMV PCR was positive along with the IgM positive with no signs of any end organ damage like chorioretinitis or any intracranial calcifications. 2D echo was normal. There was no hepatic calcifications were present. And in case 2 also, the urine CMV were positive with 25 lakh copies and CMV IgM were positive and associated with no signs of any end organ damage. Also in case 3 and case 4, urine CMV PCR were positive with significant number of copies with no signs of any end organ damage. However, in all the babies, we have given the option of the breast milk analysis to the parents, but we have not done because of their refusal. Treatment in all the in 4 cases 1, 2, and 3, we have given venganciclovir at the 16 mg per kg per dose 12 hourly. But in the case 4, baby was improving and become off oxygen by day 54, and the CRP was in declining trend. So we have done no intervention in this baby. Outcomes in case 1, the baby was gradually weaned off from the oxygen and the discharge on day of life 46. Total duration of venganciclovir was given for 3 weeks, and after 21 days, the baby become the urine CMV PCR was negative. In case 2 also, the baby become off oxygen and discharged on the day of life 41, and total duration of venganciclovir was given for 35 days. After 35 days, the urine CMV PCR was negative. In case 3, the baby discharged on day of life 63, and the total duration for venganciclovir was given for 28 days. And in case 4, as we have not given any treatment for this baby, the repeat urine CMV PCR become negative within 14 days. Also, we have tested the lab parameters for the drug toxicity in all the 3 cases, which were within the normal limit during the duration of their treatment. So now coming, what is the CMV? CMV is a double-stranded DNA virus of Herpesviridae family, which is species specific. That is, this is human being the exclusive host for this virus. Why it is important? Because 60 to 90% of adults are seropositive, and we have seen that the seroprevalence rises with the age and in the lower income settings. Maternal CMV IgG seroprevalence in India is very high, which is around 80 to 99% according to the various studies. So mode of transmissions, the mode of transmissions includes horizontal transmissions, vertical transmissions. Horizontal transmissions include direct contact, blood transfusion, or sexual contact. Vertical transmissions include antepartum, intrapartum, or postpartum. For congenital or intra-uterine transmission, the transplacental spread occurs from a mother who is infected with primary infection or reactivation or reinfection during the pregnancy. It can occur anytime during the pregnancy with 70% chances in the 3rd trimester. In the perinatal transmission, it occurs due to the exposure of the infective cervical or the genital secretions during the vaginal birth. For the postnatal transmission, breast milk from CMV seropositive mothers is the main route, which is 75 to 96, because 75 to 96% shed viruses in their milk, often after reactivations during the lactations. Other routes includes contact with the saliva, urine, or vaginal secretions, or the blood transfusions, which we can reduce with CMV negative or leuko-reduced products. Transmission from the CMV positive breast milk occur in 15 to 50% of all exposed preterm infants and up to 60% of the term infants. Now, comparing congenital versus postnatal CMV, as they are two different entities, because the timing of infection, as we know that congenital CMV infection can occur in utero, whereas postnatal CMV infections occur at birth or later. Clinical manifestation is also different, as congenital CMV infections includes petechiae, purpura, hepatosplenomegaly, jaundice, etc. Whereas postnatal CMV infections present like sepsis-like syndrome, necrotizing enterocolitis, or pneumonitis. Also, the long-term complications of both are different, whereas in hearing loss and neurodevelopmental disability is seen in congenital CMV, whereas there is only long-term neurological impairment and BPD are seen in various studies in the postnatal CMV infections. So how to differentiate whether the baby has congenital CMV infection or the postnatal infection? For that, we need 2 things for the diagnosis of the postnatal CMV infections. The first thing is a positive CMV DNA PCR sample after the day of life 21 and explicitly paired with a negative sample collected within the first 21 days, as we have seen in our case 3. But if we have not done the CMV testing in the first 21 days, we can do the retrospective diagnosis using the dry blood spot sample, which we use for the newborn screening regularly. The incidence of postnatal CMV, as in a recent meta-analysis, it is estimated that CMV infections occur in 16.5% of infants born to CMV seropositive mothers. However, in the incidence of postnatal CMV in very low birth weight baby in USA was seen 6.5% with 1.4% developing severe disease. Why less than 32 weeks of very low birth weight babies are vulnerable for the postnatal CMV infection? Because as we can see in this graph that the most of the IgG transfer from the from the mother occurs after the 32 weeks of gestation. As the baby born before 32 weeks, the baby completely missed this critical IgG transfer, and also due to the immature cellular immune system, the baby is more vulnerable for the postnatal CMV infections. What are the clinical features? As we have seen in our cases that the baby can present like sepsis like syndrome, including bradycardia, apnea, or increased oxygen support, marrow suppression, thrombocytopenia, or respiratory like pneumonitis, GI manifestations including necrotizing enterocolitis, feed intolerance, and the hepatobiliary complications including conjugated hyperbilirubinemia and acute hepatitis. Most common being the sepsis like syndrome. So in the most common being the sepsis-like syndrome, which is the manifested by mostly by the triad, including apneas, bradycardias, and the gray pallor. So postnatal CMV infection has been categorized into asymptomatic, mild, and severe basic categories on the basis of 5 symptom categories like fever or raised inflammatory markers only, bone marrow suppression, GI manifestations, respiratory symptoms, general appearance, irritability, and mild lethargy. If the babies have one or two of the 5 categories associated with abdominal distension without any major clinical deterioration, then we classified it as mild. For severe, the baby sepsis-like symptoms or symptoms in at least 3 of the 5 categories. Why we are categorizing? Because it helps in deciding whether we have to treat the baby or not. So for diagnosis, there are various methods include a direct virological on the molecular test, serology and the other test, supporting investigations. For direct virological and molecular test, it includes urine PCR, which have the very high sensitivity and the specificity of 93 to 100%. Saliva PCR, which is the preferred screening test, easy to take and high sensitivity and specificity, but it requires confirmation using urine on the blood PCR because of the false positivity rate because of contamination of the breast milk. So we should take carefully that we should take the saliva sample only after 1 hour after the breastfeed. Dried blood spot, as I have discussed, that dried blood spot also can be used to in the babies who present late, although it has a lower sensitivity than the urine and saliva. Viral culture, it is a gold standard, but now not routinely used. The other tests include serology, IgG, and IgM, which is more used in maternal diagnosis, not in the neonatal diagnosis. And other diagnoses include blood PCR, antigen detection, and immune assess. Other supporting investigations, which are not diagnostic alone, but also help in deciding the severity and guide the management, include cranial ultrasound, ophthalmological examination, and the audiological examinations. So when to screen, as there are no consensus guidelines regarding when we have to screen the postnatal CMV. So screening in the mother, in India, there is no universal screening for the mothers occur, but there are maternal serological screening during pregnancy. There are standard of care in many countries like Italy. They are doing universal screening of all the pregnant mothers. In unit, if the baby is asymptomatic, the recent European consensus recommends that the testing for the CMV DNA should be done in all asymptomatic babies who are less than 32 weeks or very low birth weight baby at birth. However, in symptomatic babies, CMV testing should be the part of our late onset sepsis evaluation in all the babies who are presenting like this. So when to treat, the dilemma for the whether we have to treat or not, because there are zero RCTs or the international guidelines for the postnatal CMV. Also, the toxicity and the effects of the drugs we give for the postnatal CMV are not studied in the preterm babies. So the indication for the therapy includes the baby who with severe and the symptomatic end organ disease should be treated, and the goal is to suppress viremia and halt organ damage. The toxicity risk includes like neutropenia, hepatotoxicity, and potential renal impairment. Also, we have to note that we we should always discuss these things with the parents and document parental discussion regarding the off-label use of these drugs and their potential toxicities. So what antiviral drugs we use? We generally use, if the baby is able to take orally, we use venganciclovir with 16 mg per kg per dose 12 hourly. And if the baby is not able to take orally, then we use ganciclovir 6 mg per kg per dose 12 hourly. Although these dosing are based on the babies of more than 32 weeks and more than 1.8 kg, and the pharmacokinetics data in extreme preterms are very limited. Side effects of venganciclovir and ganciclovir include short-term side effects include bone marrow suppressions, hepatotoxicity, GI issues, and the renal impairment. And the long-term side effects includes gonadal toxicity, carcinogenic potential. Although these long-term side effects has been seen only in the animal studies, and there is no human data present for these long-term side effects. So the treatment protocol include for the postnatal CMV that first we use the antiviral drugs for the babies who are with severe category and having end organ damage, with the strict monitoring for the toxicity of the drug side effects by doing weekly CBCs, urea, KFT, and the LFT functions. Also, we do the CMV DNA viral load in the blood. And if there is any sign, if there is any report suggesting of the neutropenia or the neutrophil count less than 500, then we should halt the treatment for some time and then continue for after when we regain the neutrophil count. These minimum treatment duration should be 2 weeks and review after 2 weeks based on the viral suppression and the clinical outcome. The treatment rarely go up to beyond 8 weeks due to escalating risk of antiviral resistance and the cumulative toxicity. So this is the pragmatic 2-week protocol in which first we initiate the antiviral drugs for the 2 weeks, and then we monitor weekly for the toxicity and 2 weekly for the viral load and the clinical symptoms. If the baby at 14 days, if the babies have persistently symptoms and the viral load is not suppressed, then we again extend the treatment duration for the 2 weeks, and then we go on for this 2-week cycle. Also, we have found that the mortality in the postnatal CMV is very rare in the various studies, suggesting that the mortality is 0.8% to 1% in the babies who have postnatal CMV. Long-term consequences of postnatal CMV include BPD and the neurodevelopment impairment. Unlike congenital CMV, postnatal CMV is not associated with the sensorineural hearing losses. Prevention, the most important is strict hand hygiene, and the diaper secretion precautions appears sufficient to keep nosocomial spreads very low. And also the use of CMV seronegative and the leukoreduced blood in all the babies, exploring alternative methods to make milk non-infectious. For the breast milk, there is a dilemma that whether we should give the breast milk in the babies of the postnatal postnatal CMV as the mother is seropositive. So in Europe, the European guideline says that fresh maternal milk should be given to all the babies because it generally benefits outweighs the CMV risk. But the American Academy of Pediatrics in 2024 recommends that CMV screening for mothers of infants born before 32 weeks of gestation and the treatment of milk from CMV IgG positive mother, while still not supporting and withholding maternal milk due to insufficient evidence. Similarly, Germany and Spain, countries like Germany and Spain also mandate that pasteurization for the milk should be done in all the extremely preterm infants. So there are various techniques to reduce the CMV infection in the breast milk, like long-term pasteurization, which completely inactivate the CMV transmissions. But as Bhavna ma'am says that the pasteurization decreases various properties of the breast milk, including nutritional values, immunological, and the endocrinological properties. Other pasteurization techniques include short-term pasteurization, freezing, which decreases the viral load but not completely eliminate it. Also, we have seen that because we have encountered the 3 or 4 patients in our unit, so we have found that there is nosocomial infection, and there was no patient to patient or the staff to patient transfer occurring postnatal CMV. So the key messages include that congenital and the postnatal CMV are the distinct entities. Preterm and BLBW infants are at highest risk for the severe postnatal CMV disease. Considered CMV in the preterm infants who presents like late onset sepsis like illness. PCR-based testing should be done for the diagnosis, and the antiviral therapy should only be reserved for the severe and the symptomatic uh, postnatal CMV diseases. Long-term consequences may include neurological impairment and the BPD. And the prevention through CMV should be done by using safe blood products, infection control practices, and yes, we should not forget that hand hygiene is the best method to reduce any infection. Careful breast milk management in the high-risk preterm infants. Thank you.
Dr. Vivek, Dr. Manisha Mehta is here.
Yes, sir.
So Dr. Pradeep, Manisha is in charge of the unit which did this.
Good. I think that was an excellent case presentations of all the postnatal CMV that were presented. I think the key message is very, very clear. If you have a preterm baby in the unit, somewhere in the second, third, fourth week, present with sepsis-like picture with very high inflammatory markers being positive, cultures are persistently sterile, I think please keep in mind a possibility CMV. I think most of us tend to sort of not consider this. And one of the things which I have also experienced is persistent thrombocytopenia and high elevated liver enzymes. I think keep these two in mind, which will always add to your diagnosis. If you have a baby who's behaving like sepsis, persistent thrombocytopenia, anemia, and elevated liver enzymes, I think this will, in addition to your negative blood culture, will give you a sort of a clue that could this be a perinatal CMV. Now, there were two other aspects which I wanted to be very sure. One is the diagnosis part is more or less straightforward, that most of our units have urine PCRs which are done regularly, and that's sort of a gold standard, I would say. Saliva, most of us, at least personally, we don't do routinely the saliva part, but urine PCRs has been the gold standard, I think. And the good thing is it remains positive for quite some time, for almost for a month or two. So it's not very easy to miss out that diagnosis. The only dilemma again is the treatment part of it. I'm not, again, the guidelines are not very, very clear about should we treat all these babies with ganciclovir, which itself is known to be a bit toxic drug as far as the treatment is concerned. Again, the risk of benefiting with the thing versus the harm that you're going to do using a toxic drug like ganciclovir has been a bit of a debate. The duration of therapy has also been of debate, because in congenital CMV, if you look at the recent European guidelines, they've told very clearly they are now talking about 6 months therapy, 6 weeks versus 6 months. And they have told very clearly that 6 weeks does not have a major benefit. Basically, they were looking at sensory neural hearing loss and the long-term neurological. They have told that 6 weeks has not much of a benefit, but 6 months did reduce. Again, there was word of caution with related to the toxicity as such. But compared to that, in the postnatal CMV, again, the guidelines, whether we should treat all these babies, let's say this baby had just CRP positive, bit of thrombocytopenia with recovered with your symptomatic, should I really start on treatment? Again, is a matter of debate or a question mark. And most important is again to look at other organ involvement. I think we always look at brain, eyes, and ears. We always say CMV, look for the brain, look for the eyes, look for the ears. And even if they don't manifest in the immediate period when the sepsis-like picture, but please keep these babies on a very, very close follow-up. And we have seen these babies manifesting with sensory neural hearing loss even at a later date. And they need a very, I would say, a strict follow-up for neurodevelopmental and for their sensory, sensory neural hearing losses in future. So regarding the treatment, I think the moderator who has treated these cases also can come up with how was the take of this treatment, antiviral therapy with the parents, was the toxicity discussed, and what was the unit protocol? Do you routinely treat all babies with perinatal CMV or only those who are been very sick and they continue to be symptomatic? I think the consultant who has managed this can also have their own comments on this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your kind comments. These were the areas which I wanted to highlight. And first of all, thanks to Dr. Shubham for such an excellent presentation. So, like sir has already highlighted a few things, I would like to add up. Firstly, regarding the prevalence of postnatal CMV. So, in our country, the prevalence is underestimated. Like Shubham mentioned, that around 16.5% babies born to seropositive mothers are seen to be having CMV transmission, and out of them, 6.5% are VLBW. So we know that maternal CMV IgG seroprevalence in our country is very high, but we don't know the value of postnatal transmission in these vulnerable babies. So many babies diagnosed with late onset sepsis like illness do not get investigated for CMV, like sir rightly said. So I hereby in this forum suggest to plan a study for the same so that we can have the exact disease burden in our country. So regarding investigations and diagnosis, like sir rightly mentioned that saliva, urine, and blood PCRs are used for diagnosis. However, the postnatal CMV differs from the congenital CMV diagnosis, and recently the guidelines have changed due to variability in the viral load dynamics. So, although saliva and urine PCR, like sir mentioned, have high sensitivity in congenital CMV, it is seen that saliva only has 30% sensitivity in postnatal CMV cases, and the urine also has problem. There is intermittent positivity seen in 22% BLBW babies seen on serial screening. So sometimes it is seen that urine CMV becomes positive after 2 weeks of florid disease. So now, and also we know that blood CMV viremia precedes the clinical disease. So now they have changed the guidelines for postnatal CMV. They have mentioned that blood PCR and urine PCR both are recommended for diagnosis of postnatal CMV. And for monitoring, blood CMV viral load is recommended for the monitoring of the treatment part. Although we monitored the drugs and the therapy based upon the urine reports, and babies did fairly well. They are doing fine both neurodevelopmentally as well as growth wise. And we documented the urine PCR twice negative before we stopped the therapy. And regarding, yes, we did discuss the toxicity profile. Although various case studies, we don't have a larger trial. The case studies did not mention any significant toxicity in these babies, especially with Valg and cyclovir, which we found in our units. So we did a consent. We told them about the toxigenicity as well as the carcinogenicity potential, which has been seen in animal studies, and then only we started the treatment. So regarding treatment, also I would like to add a few points. Again, term babies, symptomatic, whether asymptomatic, do not recommend. The treatment is not recommended. For preterm very low birth babies, like sir already said, that there are no larger trials available, but we should consider diagnosis. We discussed while treating them, these babies, some of them with Anup sir also, that they should be treated if they are symptomatic and stuck. Regarding asymptomatic preterm babies, we again do not have much evidence, but whatever evidence we have, the treatment is not recommended for them, for those babies who are asymptomatic. But we are not sure of the long-term effects of CMV in these two babies, in these group of babies who are asymptomatic but preterm. So the two long-term morbidities mentioned in cases of postnatal CMV are either BPD. So most studies observing BPD as a consequence of postnatal CMV transmission have included only symptomatic babies. So in asymptomatic babies, we are not that concerned about BPD. However, this is not the case for neurodevelopmental impairment. So they have seen the studies suggesting postnatal CMV association with neurodevelopmental impairment, especially in the intelligence part and visual perception part at 6 years of age. They have they have included all infants born to CMV seropositive mothers and followed them prospectively. So they included both symptomatic as well as asymptomatic babies. So we are not sure whether we should treat asymptomatic preterm babies as of now, but the evidence is against treating them. So lastly, hello. So lastly, regarding prevention part, so safe strategies should be devised for the prevention of breast milk associated CMV transfusion. And for that, I call upon the NNF stakeholders to devise a strategy for the same. And also, as a policy, only leukodepleted packed red blood cells should, preferably from CMV seronegative donors, should be given to these vulnerable babies. So that is all from my side.
Yeah, I think just coming to the last comment, I don't think that routinely the blood banks are screening for CMV. I don't know, correct me if the thing, they don't routinely.
No, sir, they are not screened, but
Exactly.
the
So the
latest.
problem is that, and like we had the same scenario where the baby had symptoms, the baby or CME, baby had already received a transfusion, then the question mark came up. But as you said, rightly, irradiation and leukodepletion probably reduces the risk, if not takes away completely. And I agree with you on that point that, asymptomatic preterm, as of now, we are, I think, debating about to treat or not to treat. So I think as of now, the evidence is we do not know whether we treat these babies, will it reduces the long-term morbidity? Again, the evidence is not very, very, very strong. And again, between the blood and urine, as you said rightly, though blood is the earliest one, most of time the problem is by the time we have thought about and do, the viremia may or may not. So I think it's a good idea, as you said rightly, to do both blood and urine. And you could definitely pick up one of them, because the blood viremia is, they may be there for the first couple of weeks, disappears, but the urine comes little later, may persist. So I think it's a good balance to do both blood and urine in a postnatal CMV. But as I said, in congenital, it's straightforward that urine does, because viremia most of time would have disappeared by the time this baby saw born. I think that was the points well summarized. I think important that these babies are prone for BPD, so they start off with pneumonitis like picture, but again, these babies are going to get stuck with BPD. And I think second important point, as you said rightly, is to discuss with the parents about the pros and cons of the treatment, the therapy, the cost involved, duration, and most important is the adverse effects, because it is a bit nasty antiviral drug, I would say. So keep a close watch on the toxicity part of it, and you could have your unit guidelines about whether you want to take urine PCR negative to stop, clinically asymptomatic. Those protocols are not very well defined in the books, but I think negative urine is a good end point to decide, okay, we may stop, because keeping in mind the benefit and the toxicity of the drug as such. I think those points were well summarized. Thank you. Thank you.
Manisha.
And I think one more point, just I wanted to bring it about the routine screening. I think should we routinely screen all babies less than 32 weeks for perinate or the CMV? I'm not too sure at this point. At least we do not have that unit protocol, but in the August gathering can comment if there is any unit which is doing, because he presented one of the cases where he said was a unit protocol to do urine and they picked up urine positive. I don't know which unit was that, whether they do it routinely. Urine, I mean, I'm keen on listening to.
Sir, Shubham has already mentioned that in his slide, that the recent guidelines say that we should screen all babies less than 32 weeks at
No, is
birth.
it practice?
We're not following that as of now. It is
Yeah,
difficult
yeah.
to.
No, he mentioned one case where he said that day two, some unit had done
Yes,
a
sir.
routine.
So that unit was practicing it, and we got the report as negative. And
Negative. That was negative initial. Initial one was
yes,
negative.
initial was negative. Yes, sir.
So at least it made it very clear it was not congenital and it was a
Yeah.
post-natally acquired. I mean, it put,
Yes.
yeah.
So regarding leukodepleted PRBC, they are routinely available in most of the good
that I think most
banks.
of us are
But
doing.
seronegative donors, we still are not doing
No, I
it,
don't think
screening them.
That's not
But
possible.
the guidelines say that preferably both leukodepleted as well as seronegative donors should be used to.
I think at least the standard units, neonatal units should insist on irradiation and leukodepletion. I think that's something which I see many of the smaller units not practicing it very religiously, but I think it's a good take-home point to say, please, whenever if it's not an emergency transfusion, please do take this irradiation and leukodepletion into the as a standard protocol when they are giving transfusion. But again, as Sir Dr. Surinder also can comment whether routine screening of this babies for CMV, whether it's recommended, looking at the seropositivity in our country. I'm sure a lot of babies might come out to positive. What the problem is not in that stage. Problem is what next. Then
what next to do?
What next? Would we treat, not treat? Then every symptoms that we start, then we start attributing. No, we are probably going to be.
We don't want to open a Pandora's box where we are stuck up in a situation. We get so many positive, and we are increasing the anxieties of the families, where we still the evidence is not clear on whether to treat or not to treat, or whether they are going to have long-term cognitive function,
Benefits
zero
we can
cognitive
also.
delays. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
And also,
there are. Yeah, sorry, Manisha.
Dr.
Yes,
no,
but
sir.
Anup,
but
Anup.
there are some of the recommendation where you should be screening not as a routine. I mean, Manisha, that's not right now in our country's priority. So one is that if there is any stigmata at birth, that is one thing, or if you see. Next is if you have unexplained thrombocytopenia, cholestasis. Third is if there is already an antenatal ultrasound finding, which is abnormal,
Right.
especially for the brain, like if there is microcephaly or if there is calcification in the brain already. Fourth is if you are getting sensory hearing loss in the baby, then you go and screen back for CMV. Or if you're screening for the ROP, you're getting choroidititis. I mean, these are some of the indication where even if you've not screened, you screen back. So these things should be kept in mind, and you should always for congenital CMV, you should also take history from the mothers. If 90% of the mothers will already be CMV positive and seroconverted in our country, but especially those who are still CMV negative and recently acquired CMV during pregnancy, IgM positive, IgG negative, they are the ones who are like more likely to trans. I mean, those babies are more likely to have congenital CME. They don't have immunity. So these kind of retrospect, I mean, high risk screening is something which we can do. Routinely screening, of course, I mean, still not on charts for our country, but many countries do it just like they do a Go3 test. I mean, they do a newborn screen, metabolic screen, the same blood spot, they screen for CMV also. That's done in many countries, the protocol.
Good. So, Manisha, can you just switch on your camera? She's alumnus of UCMS like me, and we want to have a joint program every time we meet. Manisha,
Sir,
she's
she's
always a
also
camera shy
she
person.
she's also an alumni of Gandharam Hospital. So I also
That is why we continuously take help from Anup sir regarding management of our babies.
Yeah. So, Doctor, I'm really thankful to Dr. Pradeep. I'm really sorry for Dr. Ramesh, and I can understand the kind of emergencies which has
No,
happened.
it's his unfortunately his brother had an angina, so he was stuck. That's
So that's the thing. And Pradeep is a very, very dear friend. And for I don't know whether Vivek got his slide to for introduction. Pradeep is a young but not so young neonatologist. He looks young that way, but he is the DM from Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research in Chandigarh. And thereafter, he is working in Bangalore, being the HOD of neonatology at Ramaya Medical College and Ramaya Memorial Hospital. And the dear friend, and Anup, he is a very good photographer, a professional photographer. He has calendars, and he allowed me to use his calendar to make my departmental calendar this year. Lovely photograph. I can share that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr.
Wildlife photographer.
helps.
So much.
So should I conclude, sir? I mean, if it's okay for
I
everyone,
think
it's
if
nine
there are
o'clock.
some questions, I saw some questions in the
Are
chat.
there some questions? Yeah, there's the
We
questions.
could just quickly take up those if yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we answered that first question. Should we screen every baby delivered less than 22 weeks? I think at this point, routine screening can be little difficult because we do not know what to do with this baby since there's so much of controversy in the treatment. I think we discussed that. What is the
Dr. Rohit has asked, what is the importance of quantitative estimation of viral copies, as some labs do only qualitative? Can we
Yeah.
start treatment if qualitative test is positive and clinical course is also compatible with postnatal? Only
I
qualitative,
think
not quantitative, no copies.
I think we can start the treatment. It's only as Dr. Manisha, where I think they have managed it when they are doing a serial monitoring, it might be important. But I think for me, even if it's positive in this scenario where we are looking at a baby with sepsis-like picture, blood culture negative, I think I would start treatment. I would not insist on getting the qualitative. To me, it's positive. It's good enough to start with the treatment. Dr. Manisha, you had anything to add to that?
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't matter. One baby had 99 lakh copies and another baby had 22,000 copies.
To me,
Both were treated and both were fine. So the numbers, but generally the labs are doing quantitative amplification of PCR testing. So we have, generally we have quantitative estimation also.
yeah.
But
And
they
what
may be
else?
Yeah,
labs.
but Yeah, but when you are treating, then the blood viremia is important once you initiate treatment to follow up, look at the viral load
Exactly,
after 2
to
weeks.
decide when to stop the treatment.
Yeah, so urine viremia should not be guiding you for the treatment. I mean.
Absolutely. That I already had mentioned that.
Manisha, the question Dr. Rohit went on to ask was, what is the standard duration of therapy to treat? As we are repeating urine, CMV, PCR every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
That
Manisha, I think
has
what
already mentioned.
That
Mostly the babies rarely require treatment beyond 4 to 6 weeks. Most of our babies got well within 4 weeks.
I think around 6 weeks is the standard.
6 weeks
Yes,
is the upper limit,
6.
which is mentioned in the literature.
Yeah,
Six
yeah.
So
And whether
another
no
question, another question is,
no
no
suspension.
suspension is available for this tablet. So and making the sachet as per dose from pharmacological department. Any other way you are giving that?
No, I think we have a cash pharmacy in Bangalore which does the solution for us. I think that's the only standard thing, but I don't think there's any suspension available.
Manisha, how did you do that?
We procured the suspension from Nath Brothers. They make a suspension out of the tablets which is available.
Achha, so pharmacies are doing that, yeah.
Pharmacy side. We also have a pharmacy in Bangalore which does it for us. Yeah.
Dr. Pushpender Mehra is writing, how will we differentiate bone marrow suppression is because of drug or because of the virus itself?
So I think the drug effect starts once we start therapy. It's at the beginning of the disease. If you have thrombocytopenia and anemia, obviously you are attributing it to the congenital, perinatal CMV. But if the baby's platelets count starts dropping once you start on therapy, let's say 2 weeks later, the platelets are further dropping, I think you could attribute bit of it to your drug and not to the CMV. But again, at the beginning of the disease, it is probably due to CMV. And once on treatment, if there's worsening, maybe you'll
and it is not the worsening viremia, the drug resistance, which is usually there's
exactly. It is the drug then. It is about the drug then.
Yeah, so to add on,
Yeah.
basically, you should be looking at the absolute neutrophil count when you're giving the drug therapy. And if the ANC count drop below 500, you need to stop the drug
Stop
and
temporarily at least.
yeah, and see after 48, 72 hours. If it rises back, it means it was because of
The
drug
drug it is.
therapy, and you can reinstitute the drug if your count is again back more than 750. So that is what we follow here.
Makes sense. Yep. I think that's the questions, Dr. Surinder. I don't think I see there is any other question.
It's already 9.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, 9-5 and wonderful discussion. So shall we conclude, sir?
Yes.
Surinder sir, Pradeep sir, yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Shubham. Wonderful presentation and a very controversial, interesting topic. We all are still learning. Guidelines are evolving. Long-term follow-up is not available. Treatment guidelines are still slacky. So it was a very nicely chosen case series, Manisha. And thanks to Dr. Bis
Thank you, sir.
and Shubham did a wonderful job. Manisha did a wonderful job as usual. And
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Bis sir, for suggesting the topic. And I would like to request all the participants to kindly register for the National Neophon in Delhi. It's a big show this time. Kindly register if not done so far. And next month, we also doing some infection symposium around 20th of September. So we'll share the brochure with all of you. So thank you so much, all of you. Really wonderful lecture, wonderful panel discussion, and wonderful case series and discussion. So good night, all of you, and God bless everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Surinder. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
for
Pradeep.
inviting me. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
And yeah, thank you, Anup, Vivek, Manisha.
Thank you all the peers.
Shubham did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I think he was
Thank
very
you,
well
sir. Thank
presented.
you.
Very good, Shubham. I wanted to see your
He's a
face.
budding neonatologist.
अरे शक्ल नहीं दिखाया, क्या कर रहा है? शक्ल दिखाओ.
And it's so
Sir, I
wholesome
don't
to
know my.
Camera is not working. हाँ ठीक है.
Yeah.
Good.
शक्ल
Well
दिखाओ
presented.
यार.
Well
Thank you,
presented.
sir.
Good boy.
Very well presented.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And it is so comprehensive to see this being the benefits of breast milk as well as the risk of transmission of CMV being discussed
So
in
on
the
the
same
same
session.
day when we are doing breast milk, you are talking something which is I was going little against breast milk. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.